Wonderful. All right. Welcome everybody here. We're for the Community Advisory Committee organizational meeting for Caesar Palace Times Square. Thank you everybody for being here. Great to have you and meet you in person. Excellent. Great. So we're going to do a call to order and establishment of quorum to start. Upon the receipt of a completed application in response to the request for application issued pursuant to New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Title 2A, the Commission will establish a Community Advisory Committee for each applicant to receive based upon the physical location and proposed gaming facility. Accordingly, we have received an application for a project at 1515 Broadway, Manhattan. The Commission has established a Community Advisory Committee for the applicant for Caesar Palace Times Square. By statute, each Community Advisory Committee is to consist of appointees made by the Governor, the New York City Mayor, the State Senator, the State Assembly member who represented the district where the proposed facility is located, the Borough President where the facility is proposed to be located, and the City Council member representing the district where the facility is proposed to be located. Members of this Community Advisory Committee has been appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York State Senator Liz Krueger, New York State Assembly member Tony Simone, Borough President Mark Levine, and New York City Council member Eric Boucher. Pursuant to New York General Construction Law 41, a quorum shall be established by the presence of 4 members. Peter Hatch is here, appointed by Governor Hochul. Thank you. Laura Smith was appointed by the New York City Mayor Adams. Present. Richard Gottfried, appointed by New York Senator Krueger.
Yep.
Matthew Teig via live stream. He was appointed by the New York State Assembly member Simone. Welcome, Matt. And then Chris Carroll, appointed by Borough President Levine.
Present.
And Carl Wilson, appointed by New York City Council member Boucher.
Present.
Wonderful. The presence of a quorum of qualified member is present, thus enabling us to transaction of business. Please note that the committee member Teig is in Vietnam. Bilateral visual and oral communications between our location and Vietnam have been established. As we said, there he is. Welcome, Matt. And he's also on film. So, all right. So some of the things we're going to talk about today all the materials we're going to talk about have been provided to you. Resolution 2501 regarding public access to Community Advisory Committee meetings, along with proposed text. Resolution 2502 regarding administration of Freedom of Information Law by a Community Advisory Committee, along with proposed rule text. A brief introduction and task overview presentation. Proposed template schedule along with a template form to request changes to an application and conduct a final vote. Copy of the Racing Law Section 1321D, which details community advisory committees. So we have everyone here, which is great. So thank you for being here. Consideration of resolutions. Our first resolution is to appoint a chair to the committee. So per New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law 1321D3E7, each community advisory committee at its first meeting shall elect a chair by majority vote. At this time, I'd like to facilitate the process by opening nominations to serve as the chair of this committee. Can I get any nominations for chair?
I move to nominate Carl Wilson.
Excellent. Any other nominations? Awesome. Can I get a motion to approve Carl Wilson?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Wonderful. And Carl, welcome to chair of this committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We look forward to it. So all in favor to serve as chair of the Caesar Palace Times Square Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
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 Awesome. Aye. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. All right. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and what we're here for, and then we'll move into the presentation. Okay. My name is Andrea. I'm a project manager with Nice Tech. The entity selected to following a public bid to serve as the Community Advisory Committee consultant for the New York State Gaming Commission. Founded over a quarter century ago, NYSTEC is a not-for-profit consulting company with more than 350 full-time employees operating at multiple locations throughout New York State, including New York City. We have extensive experience in task force and steering committee coordination, stakeholder engagement, public meeting facilitation, adherence with New York's open meetings law, and large-scale event planning. So thanks for having us. I want to start by advising the Community Advisory Committee member has been provided a copy of the completed application, finally, right, Carl? Submitted by Caesar Palace Times Square in response for the request for applications. If anyone needs assistance accessing that material, we can assist with that. But I believe everybody's had an opportunity to receive that. And I also want to note that the redacted application responses have been posted on the Gaming Facilities Location Board's website. So everything's available on the website. All right, so let's move into some business first. So we're going to have to do some resolution. So it's my understanding that New York State Committee on Open Government has created 2 documents to guide best practices to govern public access to meetings and handling freedom of information requests. Before us are best practice documents adapted from the Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies and Freedom Information Law model rules for agencies. All members of this Community Advisory Committee have been provided draft documents in advance. I believe the New York State Committee on Open Government documents are clear and straightforward and should be considered and circulated, taking them individually, Open Meetings Law. Can I get a motion to approve Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies as adapted for the Times Square Caesar Palace Community Advisory Committee?
So moved. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor of adopting Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies? Say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Can I also get a motion to adopt the Freedom of Information Law model rules for agency as adapted for the Caesar Palace Times Square Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. So all in favor of adopting the Freedom of Information Law model rules for agency as adapted by our Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you. So as I talked about in the beginning of the meeting, we're going to take it offline, but we'll talk about scheduling the public meetings. And then also it's important for you to know that, you know, the Community Advisory Committee required by New York State Racing, pari-mutual wagering and breeding law needs to conduct no less than 2 hearings. If you feel there's a need for more than 2, let us know, but by law, we need to commit to 2 public hearings. And I expect those events will allow the members of the public the opportunity to speak about the proposed project because that will not be allowed to happen today. Today is just for our business. Awesome. All right, cool. So if we could go to our slideshow, Phil, that'd be amazing. Wonderful. All right. So again, thank you for being here. The presentation is intended to provide a broad overview of what, like I said, why we're here, what your role will be, and what we need to do from a business perspective. You've received copies of the presentation online, but also it is printed within your packet there. So, all right, so these are the board members for the gaming facility. So a little bit of background into it. The New York State Constitution was amended in 2012 to allow 7 commercial casinos within the state. 4 of the 7 casinos were established in upstate in 2014 and 2015, following a competitive process very similar to what we're doing today. In 2022, the legislature established a citing process for up to 3 casino licenses, specifically creating a gaming facility location board to issue a request for applications, evaluate applications, and select up to 3 projects for commission licensure. The board issued a request for applications in 2023 and currently has 4 members, Vicki Bean as chair, along with Terrell Brown, Marianne Phillips, and Greg Reimers. And there is 1 vacancy on that board. So, any questions so far? All right, so the Community Advisory Committee statute. So the law requires the creation of a project-specific Community Advisory Committee to determine whether the application should advance to the gaming facility location board for consideration. Each committee is made up of appointees by the elected officials, as you are, representing the physical location of the proposed project. All right, next question. How do we end up here, right? So on June 27th, there was 8 applications received, and they're all listed here. 8 community advisory committees have been formed, and you are part of one, or unless you're Richard and Matthew, you're a part too, right? All right. Why are you here? You've been appointed by an appointing authority to serve on the Community Advisory Committee by Caesar Palace, New York City, located at 1515 Broadway, Times Square. And there you can see a picture of all of the applicants and where they are. All right. And as we discussed, the committee members have received the application materials, and we expect the applicant to provide a presentation to the committee later during this meeting, which I think they're really excited to do. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here. Where are we at with the citing process? So if you look, the RFA was issued in January 3rd, 2023. This committee has until September 30th to make a vote. So we have to get those 2 public meetings done, and the vote has to be completed by September 30th. We did ask if there was any room for wiggles there, and there is not. So a big decision to be made by September 30th. Those applications that are approved by the committee will then be evaluated by the board via statutory criteria. And the board expects to announce its selections by December 1st, followed by commission license consideration by the end of the year. Any questions on any of that? Obligation and deadline. So kind of what we just talked about. By statute, the committee is required to review their application, solicit and review public comment, and hold at least 2 hearings. And then again, the CAC must vote by September 30th with a 2/3 majority. And then at that point, it will advance to the gaming facility location board. A failure to hold a vote by September 30th will be deemed a rejection. So reiterating the important parts. All right, what's your duties? What do you have to do, right? So today we've already checked one off your list. You're going to vote for a chair. We did that. You've had the opportunity to review the application. You'll have continued time to do that. You're requested to attend hearings and meetings and review public comments, and also vote in a public meeting before September 30th. With that being said, for the Caesar Palace Times Square application to advance to the gaming facility location board for consideration, 4 committee members must vote in the affirmative. You're going to hear that as a very common theme here today. Application changes. So you do have the opportunity to request application changes. Important to think about, one, we have the September 30th deadline. The complexity of the request should be considered, and also, oh, we lost Matt. Just 1 second. Back, thank you, Matt. Awesome. So also the CAC will have to set the timeline for the response from the applicant. So if you do request any changes or modifications to the applicant, it's up to them to let you know when to have that information back to us. So that's important to talk about. A committee may request a bidder change or modification to their application. For such to be considered, it must be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. Have any questions on that? How do we advance an application? So in order to advance the application, the committee must notify the gaming facility location board of such an unconditional affirmative vote by the deadline. All materials upon which the affirmative decision is based is required to be delivered to the board, with members of the CAC concurring in a positive determination signing that title page of such material. So we'll talk about that when we get closer to that. The purposes of advancing an application to the gaming facility board, this community advisory committee must realize 4 affirmative member votes. So again, 4 people need to say yes to move it forward. As you can see, there's a common theme here, right? So 4 people need to say yes in order to move this project forward. Thank you. Any questions so far? Awesome. I'm almost done, I promise. All right, so next up, the schedule. So if you look at the schedule, we are on a tight deadline, right? But also this was a proposed schedule, and we understand that having a public hearing by the 1st is actually not possible for this committee because Matthew's not back until the 7th. So we'd like to give him the opportunity to not only stay on the phone, but also come back come back and join us for those. So just so you know, that won't be scheduled. You there, Matt?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Apologies for the bad signals.
No worries, I'm here for it. Thank you. All right, so with that being said, this is a proposed schedule for the committee's consideration, including the 2 meetings and 2 hearings as required by statute. This proposed schedule is not definitive. Like we said, we can change this. There's also some flexibility to the public hearing schedules. I think we've talked about that, where you could do 2 in one day, or we could do a morning session, an evening session. Really, there's a lot of flexibility with those scheduling, so we can take that offline and talk about that. But this is just an example of a schedule if preferred. But again, we just need to set it between now and September 30th, so we'll make that work, right? So just hoping everybody can have a little flexibility in their schedule with the tight timeline. Public comments. So members of the public comments, they've been given an email. So the email is listed here as Caesar Times Square public comment at nicetech.com. So any public comment can be sent to that email. They can also mail it to us at 540 Broadway, 3rd floor, Albany, New York, 12207, where our team is managing that mailbox. And we'll, as you'll see, coming in the next week or so, I will be compiling that list and sending it over to you of any public comments we receive. So that way you can receive them and review them on a weekly basis.
Is that open now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. So all comments will be collected and provided to committee members for the review. Comments that were previously submitted to the commission and board regarding the project are being collected by committee for committee members' review. So it is open now, and we have been collecting them. So those seeking to submit comment to the committee are encouraged to do so soon to ensure ample time for review for the deadline. So that's anybody in the public that is looking to reach out and get their comment noted, to do it soon. As we know, the deadline is coming forward. All right. Unredacted application material. So this is just kind of a word of caution, right? So the stuff within that, as a member of the committee, you're tasked to review the complete application. That's why you've been provided both the redacted and unredacted versions of this application. Committee members can compare the redacted and unredacted applications just to see what is actually confidential versus what is not. It's kind of an important process to go through. A lot of that information is valued secrets and trade things that are very important to this project. So if it's in the unredacted information, remember that cannot be shared. So if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to reach out and we can clarify that for you. It could potentially cause injury to the competitive position of the submitting entity. So it's really important for that. Any questions on that? Awesome. Moving along. Okay. So my colleagues and I are providing logistical assistance to each committee, including securing meeting locations, necessary technology, right? Materials and support staff. So that's what we're here for. And as required by state law, all committee meetings and hearings will be open to the public and media and accessible by webcasted, and it is recorded. So these recordings are posted on the gaming website. So if anybody's looking to find it, you can send them there. And right after this meeting, it's immediately uploaded. So you can see the recording there. Any questions? Awesome. Event location. So I know, as I've said this before, I'm encouraging you to kind of make recommendations to have our meeting spaces to conduct these hosting these public meetings in venues available through your appointing authority. So I know we've tried to make that work in the past, but we'll move forward, and we welcome any suggestions is really the follow-up there. Nobody knows their locations better than you do. All right, proposed community advisory committee event. So let's talk about what we're doing now, right? So the organizational meeting, this is where we're here to elect the chair, discuss scheduling, and receive a presentation from the applicant, and then also conduct any other initial business as needed. Doing today. Hearings. So public hearings, we'll probably have some questions on that, but committees must hold at least 2 public hearings to receive comment from the community, and the hearings should be scheduled at convenient times at appropriate durations and at locations adequate size and scope. So we are looking for a place that holds at least 100 people just to allow for them to be present, but we will also be available on live stream, so that's also an option as well. So that will be important to know. And then the final vote, remember the final vote will be in public as well I'm going to say it again, right? For the Caesar Palace Times Square application to advance to the gaming facility location board for consideration, 4 of you need to vote in the affirmative. All right. All right, so language access. So this is something I think I've reached out to everyone, kind of requested what your options are for language. So what we're kind of looking at is having materials available to people online in multiple languages, so that way everyone has access and can have adequate translation services. So members of the public will be able to request induction loop devices and language translation services too. So if anybody there needs those, the only thing we're going to request is once we post the public meeting, give us some notice. Hopefully the public can email us, reach out to us, and we can make sure that we have adequate materials and opportunity for them. ASL, if needed, we could have somebody there, but most likely we will probably work on a translation in a written form. Some sort, but if you feel that you need somebody there in person, just let us know and we'll make the accommodations. Awesome. So communication with project representatives. So it's a reminder to be mindful of the public officer's law obligations and refrain from contact with any applicant or anyone on their behalf, except in the context of a public meeting or through public comment process. So that's kind of where I come in, right? So I will be your liaison between you and the applicant. So if you have any questions when we leave here today, or at any point throughout this process that you want to ask the applicant, just email me, call me, text me, and I will get that to the applicant so that way they're able to answer those questions. And then again, the only thing I say is just make sure you copy the entire committee on that, because that way it allows transparency and everybody knows what we're asking, right? We're going to ask the same questions, and then I will also provide the answers back to everybody. So any questions for that? Awesome. All right, ethics. Accordingly, committee members should avail themselves of all applicable ethics laws, rules, and guidelines. There is a resource listed within this PowerPoint online if you want to review it, and committee members should consult with their appointing authorities regarding any additional ethics training or guidance you might need during this process. We're getting to the end. All right, again, here's some more resources for you to go through, the open meetings law, public officers law, racing law, records retention, anything like that. And also, if you have any questions regarding any of these, please feel free to reach out to me. A couple more websites available here: the New York State Gaming Board, Location Board, application material, the redacted material that's listed. So everything's listed right there online. And again, if anybody has any questions, this is our consultant team, the address, telephone number, the main line. Really, I'm your direct line of contact. So just feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. All right, so we're going to get to the good part, right? Now that our work is done for now. I'd like Caesars to provide a content overview of the project. For those in attendance today, the purpose of this overview is to simply provide a community advisory committees with a high-level explanation of the proposed project. I don't expect it to be interactive by our fellow committee members, and certainly no question from the public will be entertained at this time. With that being said, there is a question and answers portion at the end, so feel free to ask questions, and really, if you want to ask questions during the presentations, if you're comfortable with that, just let us know. That's also an option. I also remind everyone that Community Advisory Committee is required by New York State Racing Pari Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law to conduct no less than 2 public hearings, and we'll talk about that after. So also a reminder, committee members have access to confidential trade secret information contained in the application materials and should not be discussed in an open meeting. Members should be cautious in their use of such confidential information. This, however, is all public information, and so feel free to share it. And you're up.
Okay,
It's you.
that's our cue. Good morning.
Sorry, Phil, we're going to move the microphone down. Yeah, can we just,
Can I just pass
yeah,
it? Oh,
pass
sorry.
that down.
Oops. There you go.
You still there?
This is interesting. Okay, so I'll kick it off, yes?
Yes, please.
All right, good morning, and thank you for having us here today and for investing so much of your time in this project and the future of New York. No one knows better than we do of the time and effort that goes into reviewing a project like this, and we're appreciative of the opportunity that you're giving us to share with you our vision for Caesars Palace, Times Square. We want to begin with introductions of this extraordinary team. I think it's a best-of-class group of true New Yorkers with deep roots in the city and a proven track record on delivering transformative projects throughout New York. I'm Mark Holliday, CEO of SL Green, the largest commercial property owner in Manhattan. For the past 27 years, I've had the pleasure of leading this New York homegrown company. We started in 1997 as a pretty small organization, and today we are unquestionably the dominant player in high-quality New York City commercial real estate. We have done it all in the most responsible way, with award-winning improvements to historic landmarks, delivering affordable housing units, embracing ESG values from the very beginning, and improving neighborhoods everywhere we operate. And our leadership team has been together on average more than 20 years, almost 25 years, and we are deeply passionate about what we do at this company, and we are completely committed to this city. As you can see here, over the past quarter century, we've played a role in almost every significant office building in Manhattan. That map shows you 126 million square feet of direct equity and debt investments that our company has made, multiples more than our nearest competitors. While we are known for our work in East Midtown, we are also one of the largest investors and developers in Times Square and deeply committed to its future. What you don't see here are any properties in Florida, nothing on the West Coast or in Texas, nothing in the Southwest. To us, we use some gaming lingo. We do not hedge our bets when it comes to doing business in what I believe to be, in my heart of hearts, the best city in America and the most diverse, highly educated workforce, most attractive to international tourists and capital flows. And this is where we planted our flag. And nothing says it better than that map. Nobody can put that up there. I'm deeply proud of it. And, we are all in on this city like no one else, no other company that I know. So when New Yorkers thrive and New York thrives, we thrive, because our fate is shared with the city. We seek out projects that improve the communities around them. Our development at 1 Vanderbilt Avenue is a perfect example of that. We worked with the city and the state for over a decade to pioneer a new approach to public-private partnership that led to 2 rezonings, one of East Midtown, 1 Vanderbilt Avenue corridor, and these 2 in combination revitalized the entire Grand Central District and East Midtown commercial districts, providing the framework for East Midtown's remarkable recovery and resurgence over the past years. And on the heels of 1 Vanderbilt, there's been a lot of incredible and significant investment that has been unlocked, including and certainly, not to leave out J.P. Morgan's $5 billion plus headquarter development on Park Avenue, a few blocks up on 1 Vanderbilt, which was done under this zoning. The result that we achieved with 1 Vanderbilt is not just the best office building in the country, but importantly, the completion of $220 million in public realm improvements that significantly enhance the lives of everyday New Yorkers. All you see on this chart here is that SL Green funded and we built on time, on budget, improving public assets in and around Grand Central Terminal, everything from creating ingress and egress for East Side access and a public transit hall and public plazas. And we listened to what the community needed, and we delivered seamlessly by connecting the public and private realms, as you can see on this chart, in a way that blurs the distinction between the public and private realms. It's transit-oriented development at its very best, and it worked out for the betterment of commuters and workers and tourists, and it's a wonderful, wonderful addition to the city. It's also the largest private investment in public realm that was ever made in connection with a development project. The crown jewel is the plaza, where we transformed one of the worst public spaces in New York into one of the best, and along the way, improving safety and attractiveness of the entire area around Grand Central. We designed it, conceived it, built it, we operate it and secure it, and you can walk there any day of the week and you see people out there enjoying a public asset that never before existed. And now 1 Vanderbilt takes its place on the skyline that is recognized around the world, a symbol of New York's progress and resilience. And really, it's a tribute to the historic point top buildings of historic New York This is kind of our modern interpretation of that. And, the acknowledgments we've received from the design and architectural field says we accomplished that. Everything we do is about our respect for the communities in which we serve. From our incredible public space at One Vanderbilt, which I just talked about, all the way to Gemma's Dog Run, which we did over at One Madison in connection with that project. It is something that has become an amazing asset for residents of that community. And I think most proudly for me is the creation of Food First, which is a nonprofit we founded during the very early stages of pandemic. I did that with Danielle Balud and a host of my restaurant tenant partners, where we have fed over 1 million meals to food needy. And to this day, we continue to respond to first responders in New Yorkers who are fighting food insecurity. We've raised over $8.5 million, and we've decided, with the pandemic over, this will continue to be one of the significant forms of feeding food needed throughout the city, and we're committed to it. So that's brief introduction. Let me now turn it over to Brian Agnew, one of our partners in this journey.
Mark, thank you very much. As Mark said, I'm Brian Agnew, Senior Vice President of Corporate Finance, Treasury, and Investor Relations with Caesars Entertainment. We are North America's largest gaming and hospitality company with 53 properties across 18 states, serving 65 million Caesars Rewards customers across the globe. And Caesars Rewards is the #1 gaming loyalty program in the globe. When this downstate process began, we were approached by numerous parties that wanted to partner with us for our brand, Caesars, our flagship brand, our operating experience, and integration into the Caesars Rewards loyalty program. We chose SL Green and Rock Nation as our preferred partners to create a unique destination experience in Times Square. This group combines the largest gaming company in North America with SL Green's extensive experience developing premier real estate in New York, as Mark addressed, and Rock Nation is the preeminent entertainment company in the world. SL Green has a track record for delivering high-quality projects. Mark talked about many of those that have done tremendous things for communities in New York. And Rock Nation, well, they're recognized for their commitment to giving back to New York and their ability to drive world-class entertainment. Caesars, we chose this project for these partners that are here today and are so excited to talk to you about this project. But also, we were so excited because of the location, the heart of Times Square, and its proximity to an immense transit network, and to create a destination that truly embraces New York. As you can see from the map, which is still up on the slide, Caesars operates a diverse set of properties across the United States, and we're very familiar with operating in urban environments, in communities like Las Vegas, New Orleans, Baltimore, Philadelphia, where we prioritize public safety, local hiring, and community engagement. Caesars is well known in New York. We already operate sports betting in the state. As a top 3 player, we currently pay New York State more than $100 million per year in tax revenue currently. The Caesars brand is reserved only for our flagship luxury properties, which is exactly how we are positioning Caesars Palace Times Square. Caesars Palace is an iconic brand dating back to the 1960s that offers a world-class gaming experience. These are reserved for places people want to travel to, bespoke, unique, curated experiences at the high end for folks that want to take an experiential trip. Caesars Palace Las Vegas is currently our flagship property, as I mentioned, within our company, and we expect Caesars Palace Times Square will be on par with the quality of a destination like Caesars Palace Las Vegas, but as Mark talked about, in a New York way. We will be able to offer our guests around the world the same luxury experience in the tourism capital of the world, Times Square. We chose this partnership because we recognized an unprecedented opportunity, the chance to bring a world-class gaming destination to Manhattan that would attract international tourists and their spending power to benefit New York's economy for decades to come. Next slide. So this slide talks about our people and responsible gaming. As a company, we currently employ over 50,000 team members, including 20,000 unionized team members. This project is going to create significant high-quality union jobs, including close to 4,000 permanent positions on property once we open, and 3,000 union construction jobs during the building of the project. We are particularly proud of our leadership in workforce development, including our perfect score from the Human Rights Campaign for LGBTQ+ workplace equality, which we've earned over 17 years in a row. No other operator is as committed to New York and aligned with its values as Caesars. Additionally, at Caesars, 48% of our total workforce identifies as women and 63% are people of color. I say this proudly, when it comes to responsible gaming, we're not just meeting industry standards, we're setting them. Caesars will implement our globally recognized responsible gaming program, and we're going even further in New York by ensuring that there will be no gaming activities on the ground floor or visible from the street level. Let me pause there for a second and actually repeat that. We're going even further in New York by ensuring that there will be no gaming activities on the ground floor or visible from the street level. Caesars was first to pioneer Project 21, where only people over 21 can gamble. And in July 2024, we were honored with the Corporate Social Responsibility Award from the National Council on Problem Gaming. So something you may not know about Caesars, each year all of our frontline employees are trained in responsible gaming. Anybody that interacts with a gaming consumer is trained annually in responsible gaming and what to look for. And we have responsible gaming ambassadors on the floor, undercover, walking around the gaming facility to look for areas that could be considered problem gaming. We're unique, and we've been doing this the longest in the industry. And on workforce development, over 80% of our team members are proud to work for Caesars, and we continue to find new ways to invest in our team members' success. We are constantly investing in training and development, with close to $35 million spent in 2024 alone. We offer a comprehensive benefit and well-being package, and we expect to create unique opportunities for local employment. For example, like a monthly job fair that we intend to hold for Actors Equity and Local 802 members to help Broadway workers source temporary and flexible employment. Caesars has a long history of partnering with MWBE-owned businesses and expects to continue this important initiative at Caesars Palace Times Square. As an example of this, as we submitted in our RFA, we intend to enter into a partnership with a company called Mr. Shirt for laundry on property, which is a minority-owned laundry business locally. I'm going to pass it over to Desiree.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Desiree Perez. I'm the CEO of Rock Nation. We are an entertainment company. Basically, we started in 2008. We're New Yorkers, born and bred. But more importantly, we actually started the company in Times Square. And we've had the opportunity to partner with other people who are in the running, other groups. And we chose to partner with Caesars and SL Green, mainly because every investment that we make, either financially or community-wise, has to be something that stands with our values. And so this group here not only committed, but when you review the application, you will see that we've put forward our best efforts to include the community. I want you guys to know that we've ingrained in partnerships with so many different aspects of New York, but I want to just kind of amplify on four. One is with the Brooklyn Public Library, where we debuted the Book of Hope, and that was done for the program for censorships of books. We all recall that happened about a year and a half ago. And we partnered with them and we fundraised with them and we debuted the Book of Hope there with the Brooklyn Public Library. The second thing that we've done is the job fairs. We started that in 2021 on the heels of COVID, but we also partnered with Reform there so that we could help with probation and parole reform. And what we do is we pre-qualify employers, 4,000 jobs, And then when we bring in the people we basically promote and bring in people to the job fair, which we did at Madison Square Garden. On the other side of the floor, we have training for resume writing and mock interviews and expungement of your record if you have one, since we partner with Reform. And we have all sorts of amenities to help people, even organizations that come in with like clothes, if they don't have suits or proper suits or clothing for an interview. And when they turn the other side and they go around the corner and get into the space, there's 4,000 entry-level jobs waiting for them. We started that in New York, and we've been doing it every year since. The second or the third thing that we've done is the United Justice Coalition. And the United Justice Coalition, we also started about 3 years ago, and we plan to do it annually. And what we do there is we connect with 50 different organizations around the country. We bring them to New York. We did it at the Shed on 33rd Street this year. And they don't have to pay anything. Rock Nation pays for it, for everything, subsidizes all. And they sit there and they talk about their programming. And aside from that, we then go out and we get interns from around the country, interns from colleges. And those interns come into Rock Nation over the summer, and they work for us to help us market and program it. So we've had over 4,500 people show up at the UJC this year. We have panels as well. So for example, on those panels, which run about 6 or 7 hours during the day, we've had Hakeem Jeffries there. We've had our own Letitia James sit there, Eric Gonzalez sit there. And we just talk about all the issues, women who are incarcerated, or drug addiction or mental health issues for people who are in prison. And so we've done that. It's actually almost like if you think of the car show at the Jacob Javits Center, that's what the United Justice Coalition is doing. And lastly, I want to talk about the scholarship that we've had for about 21 years. This scholarship is not merit-based scholarship, as most scholarships are. It's a scholarship that Jay and his mom started, and the scholarship, what it does is it basically looks at people who can't get themselves a merit scholarship, but what they do want to do is go to college, and they have mitigating circumstances. And with those, usually the mitigating circumstances for you to qualify in the criteria that we look for are single parent homes, parents who have been imprisoned, drug addicted parents, or students who are in high school and have to take care of the siblings. And so they're not doing as well in school, but that doesn't mean they don't want to go to school. And so this scholarship program has been going on for 21 years. So basically, we've given a lot to the community. We work really hard to give back in everything that we do, in every partnership that we've ever committed to. Any business, and you could ask us about any one of our business ventures, we'll tell you how we connect and partner with the community. And so I'm going to pass it off to Jay.
Thank you. As you can tell by Dez's accent, she's from the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn. This is what New York really looks like, the programs and things that we've done, and not to highlight what we would like to do with the casino, but something we've been doing 21 years with the scholarship, the job fair. We're 6 years into Reform. These are things that we do naturally because it's who we are. So the alignment with Caesars and SL Green, it was important for us that these things are included. Obviously I came up through sports and entertainment, sports too.
Mm-hmm.
I built my career around entertainment and culture. And again, a homegrown talent from Brooklyn in the Bronx. And, the things that he's built within New York. And in Times Square being the perfect place for us. I think that I'm trying to reserve myself from it's a very good idea. Very good alignment for us to fulfill the promise of Times Square. And it goes beyond gaming for us. If you look at the work that we've done, even with the NFL and how we've presented culture to the NFL, there was never a hip hop artist to headline Super Bowl until we brought that to the forefront. And then I think we brought the NFL their first Emmy in the live sector. And I think we got 5 or 6.
We have 5, and we've just nominated for 4.
And within our stint, and we just beginning there as well. So, and also when we come into a space, it's particularly like Broadway, we're not coming to compete with Broadway. We're coming to add. We coming to be additive. Anything that we've done in the past, we've always included the community. We've never excluded the community. So for us, it's important. One of the first calls I made, and it's public now. You already talked about your undercover people on the floor and told the whole world. So I'll tell. One of the first calls we made was to Bob that I made, another Brooklynite, Bob Iger, because it was important for us to talk about the Lion King being involved with this building. I think I'm gonna stop there. You guys,
Okay.
yeah.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna go a little off script here for just 1 second. We'll tack it on to our 45 minutes. 45 minutes in 1 second. It has been one of the great joys and privilege of my life and my career to work with Jay and Des on this project. It is,
Thank you.
Can't even describe how good a partner they are, how good a company they are, how much they've done for the city. I think you scratched the surface, in what you told in a limited period of time. But it's truly, something that for people like us who, just work away hard, sometimes against tough odds to achieve great things. It takes that kind of vision and tenacity that you guys have. And I could not ask for a better partner than you guys in Caesars. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I hope you can see by that brief introduction that this is a different kind of team and an exceptional team. And we've come here today to propose a very different kind of investment and an exceptional investment. Times Square is one of New York's irreplaceable assets, the beating heart of Manhattan, a global magnet for tourists, and one of the most iconic places on the planet. It is a place designed for purpose as New York's great entertainment district, meant to host the bright lights, the big crowds. It's all about excitement, imagination, and culture. But we all know Times Square can be so much better than it is today. It can become a place where New Yorkers want to spend time, want to shop, want to dine, want to stay over in hotel, and want to go to Broadway, and want to be game and be entertained. And it should be a place that shows off the best of our city to visitors from around the world, which will be uniquely attracted to Times Square over and above many of the other locations that will be proposing projects for these licenses. To transform a neighborhood, as I'm talking about, you need a spark. And the project that we're proposing is that spark to make this happen in a way that's only possible in Times Square and uniquely achievable at 1515 Broadway. Because of Times Square's power as a tourist destination, its transportation infrastructure and concentration of businesses, it is the only location that can realistically host a world-class gaming destination that is a good neighbor, maximizes revenue for the public, and maximizes revenues for the state, and minimizes impact on the environment and the residential communities on its periphery. And at 1515 Broadway, we have an asset that allows us to create an incredible new place in the most sustainable and environmentally friendly way possible by adaptively reusing an existing 55-year-old office building. Instead of knocking the building down, the project is going to leverage this existing building, avoiding massive greenhouse gas emissions and the consumption of raw materials that necessarily comes with brand new construction. It can be delivered quickly. Speed to open is a huge advantage here. It will be open with minimal disruption to the surrounding community because the vast majority of construction will occur inside the four walls of an existing building. No new shadows, no new wind tunnels, no upset to the street grid. It's an existing project. And most importantly, it won't take away from much needed affordable housing or create sprawling new horizontal developments like other casino proposals propose to do. The result that we will walk you through today is nothing like a typical Las Vegas casino or really any other gaming or resort in the world. Caesars Palace Times Squares defies everything you've heard about in the casino development project. It is designed not to keep people inside. That's difference number one. but specifically designed to share the time of the gaming patron hotel guest with all that Times Square in New York City has to offer. It is contextual within the Times Square neighborhood, the world's most iconic entertainment district, zoned in a way to create excitement and bright lights and boisterousness and fun and entertainment. It's a community that it's a project where it has community benefits that are designed to solve existing problems, because there are some existing problems that need to be solved, as great as the attributes of Times Square are. And we've designed those solutions with members of the community. Its ownership reflects the diversity of New York. I think that's fairly clear. And most importantly, the project is supported by a broad and diverse coalition of every kind of local stakeholder, businesses, residents, unions, theater actors, and musicians, and the list goes on. So let me walk you through what we're proposing at 1515 Broadway. Take a look at this axon. It shows you the programming of the project from bottom to top. The first thing you'll notice, as I mentioned, the building exists. And it looks pretty much like this. Other than remassing the podium, the work will be mostly contained within the adaptive reuse by converting the property from its current use as office back to the site's original hotel and entertainment use, the Hotel Astor. At grade along Broadway, we have the Minskoff Theater lobby to the south, the casino lobby to the north, and in between, we're working with Pace Gallery to create an interactive digital art experience, open and free to the public. Importantly, there will be no gaming on the first floor, to kind of echo what Brian had said, to promote responsible gaming. People coming here will be coming intentionally as a destination and not impulsively drawn in. On the floors above the grade, we have gaming floors, several restaurants, an abundance of outdoor space, 992 bespoke hotel rooms. And at the very top, we will open an amenity to the facility, Summit Times Square, which is a westward counterpoint to the world-renowned Summit One Vanderbilt, which we have developed on top of One Vanderbilt. And if we are granted this gaming license, there is an agreement for the Lion King to move out of its existing premises during construction, move back into a brand new Minskoff Theater in the lower level of the building upon completion of the construction. Caesar's Palace Times Square fits into the Times Square district like a glove. And we are doing it in a way that is tasteful and a great neighbor to those around us, like One Times Square, where the ball drops, and 1501 Broadway, I think also known as Paramount Theater, Paramount Building, immediately adjacent buildings, but also staunch supporters of the project in the city known for NIMBYism. Gaming patrons will enter off Broadway into an incredibly elegant and dynamic lobby. We took great pains to design this with our architects KPF and with Caesars to come up with kind of a new approach that synthesizes Caesars, very recognizable and worldwide style with what's true and endemic to New York. Coming around the corner on 45th Street, we have a beautiful entrance to the hotel, Caesar's Palace Hotel, adjacent to the reimagined Schubert Alley. This alley has been underlit and underwelcoming for years and will now be a great public space in Times Square for theater goers and visitors to enjoy. Moving inside, we have a monumental and tasteful lobby, an incredible welcoming experience that will be readily able to handle the demand from the hotel guests. Our world-class gaming floors will be managed at the highest level. Dramatic, mostly column-free space, everything done with approachable elegance, so everyone feels welcome to the game and have a great time doing it. I'm going to dwell on this image because I don't know how and under what context every New Yorker doesn't want to have something like this in the heart of Midtown, to brand it as it should be, the greatest integrated gaming, hotel, and entertainment facility in the world. Above these gaming floors, there will be a small number of exceptional restaurant options. Nobody does dining like SL Green. Okay, you know us as real estate folks, but you should know us also for Joji, La Tête d'Or, Le Pavillon, all Michelin star and Michelin acclaimed, while the vast majority of people will eat in the surrounding establishments. We're excited to add some new fine dining options with some celebrity chefs to the neighborhood, young and up and comers. There is very little outdoor dining in Times Square, and we're going to provide several levels of incredible outdoor experiences with amazing views of the lights on Broadway to bring people out of the canyon of office buildings, onto these various setbacks and let people experience Broadway, from the outside, not just within. Everything about Caesars Palace Times Square will be elegant, refined, and classy, unlike any gaming destination in the country. SL Green specializes in designing the highest levels of design-forward amenities, as evidenced by what we've achieved at One Vanderbilt, One Madison, and these have been widely recognized for their, forward-thinking nature in ergonomics, flow, and design. The hotel rooms will be floor-to-ceiling glass and provide incredible views of the city, a true five-star hotel experience, and a great addition to the Times Square area, and not really truly competitive with any hotel that currently exists in that area. At the very top, there'll be 9 sky villas, and they'll become the most sought-after accommodations in the world. That's a quick overview to give you an accurate sense of the quality of the project and the care and thought and professionalism that has gone into its design. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Brett Hirschenfeld, Executive Vice President, SL Green, and colleague, he's one of the over 20-year colleague members, talk about the secret sauce to what we're proposing, generating demand outside of the 4 walls of the project to benefit the community in a way that is not possible anywhere else in a downstate New York facility.
Thanks, Mark. As our partners already alluded to, Times Square is unique in that it already offers everything people expect from a gaming destination, from the hotel rooms to the restaurants, retailers, and entertainment options. Here are some specific numbers to quantify what we're describing. We project over 3,400 rooms to be demanded every day because people around the world will want to visit Caesars Palace in Times Square. We're only providing 992 rooms on site. This means that nearly 2,500 rooms every day will be directed to other hotels in Times Square. And remember, Times Square contains hotel offerings of all economic levels, such that anyone who wants to enjoy Caesars Palace Times Square can come and stay at a hotel of their choice and still be treated as a Caesars Palace guest. At our property, we could deliver 34 economically successful restaurants, but we're only providing 4. When people need to eat, as they always do, let them go frequent other restaurants in the neighborhood and throughout New York City. The halo effect will create nearly 14 million meals consumed at other restaurants. Retail and gaming tend to be synonymous, and Caesars Palace Times Square will generate nearly $900 million of retail spend. But we decided to provide no retail. Instead, let New York City retail establishments win and benefit from this enormous spillover effect. And entertainment. We have the world's best, Broadway. When customers visit world-class gaming destinations, they expect world-class entertainment at the same time. As a result of citing Caesars Palace in Times Square, we expect nearly 850,000 Broadway tickets to be purchased annually, generating $125 million in new incremental ticket sales. This benefits the entire theater community, from the owners to the producers to the investors, and most importantly, the actors, musicians, and the stagehands. We spent 4 years speaking to our neighboring businesses, learning from them, and presenting the economic impact our project will have on their successes. This map reflects just a sample of some of the businesses within a 3-minute walk of our property that exclusively support Caesars Palace Times Square. We have over 200 of them. No other bid has close to this level of neighboring business support, and it's a testament to the halo effect force multiplier that these businesses know is coming their way.
Thanks, Brett. So when New Yorkers decided through a constitutional referendum to bring 7 Class 3 gaming licenses to New York State, the intent was to generate needed tax revenue and capture gaming revenue that was leaving the state. This might include international tourists that pick Las Vegas, or other international gaming destinations for their gaming entertainment, or New Yorkers who have the means to travel out of state to spend gaming dollars in other states. Caesars Palace Times Square provides the highest chances of achieving these goals. A property in Times Square will capture the highest VIP customers from around the world, especially combined with Caesars' decades experience in international high-end casino marketing. That's what a casino in Times Square will uniquely do. It gives New York an international gaming destination venue. This is the only site in front of the Gaming Commission that won't be a regional focused gaming venue. The power of the Caesars Rewards loyalty program is where our global reach becomes New York's advantage. No other gaming company in front of the Gaming Commission can deliver Caesars Rewards. We have the largest gaming database in the world, 65 million Caesars Rewards members. These are people who game for entertainment with disposable income. They accumulate points, but currently they have no reason to come to New York because we don't have a property in New York where they can redeem points. Instead, many of these gamers go to Las Vegas. Now with the New York City Trophy destination, these members will have a new reason to visit New York. I suspect they're already here or extend a stay that they may have already planned. There is significant enthusiasm from our existing Caesars Rewards customers for a New York property. In fact, we saw more than 2 times engagement on recent outreach to our customers on Caesars Palace Times Square. Caesars Palace Times Square will be a premier destination and become a must-visit property for our members. Caesars will allow its rewards points. This is an industry first, so I really want to go slow and walk you through this. For the first time ever, off property, Caesars is going to allow its rewards points to be redeemed at local partner businesses throughout Times Square and the West Side on a dollar for dollar basis. So our gaming customers come to our property, they spend time, they redeem their points, and they'll be able to take them to merchants in and around New York City for the first time ever and to be able to redeem their points at no cost to the merchant, total dollar for dollar. So we expect this to be a significant economic benefit. We are creating an ecosystem where all businesses in Times Square become part of this project. We just provide the gaming in a converted office building, and all of our neighboring businesses become our partners. And on top of that, we are going to market our neighboring businesses on our Caesars Rewards app, as I said, at no charge to them. We are talking free marketing to neighboring businesses. So here's restaurants, Broadway theaters, LGBTQ plus establishments, and then finally we've got a hotel listed up here. So all of our neighbors get access to 65 million members for free because they've decided to be our partner.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
Oh,
We
right.
just passed.
Sure.
You want you
Me too.
to-
Good morning. I'm Jeffrey Bank, the CEO of the A La Carte Restaurant Group. As someone who owns restaurants in Times Square for over 35 years now, Carmine's, Virgil's, Mermaid, and Bar Mexicana, and who also sits on the board of both the Times Square Alliance and the New York City Hospitality Alliance, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to understand the support that Times Square Restaurant needs. I want to start by reiterating that the numbers Brian is talking about are true game changers for every business that operates in and around Times Square and surrounding neighborhoods. Because I also have restaurants in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, I truly understand the typical casino environment and how it works. Simply put, they never want you to leave the casino. However, this particular Caesars Casino flips that playbook. It's going to drive dining to local independent restaurants through its reward program, providing a much needed boost to our economy. I've watched all the other presentations, and I believe a lot of them are overselling and overemphasizing their celebrity chef component. New York City has no shortage of celebrity chefs. What the other proposals are missing is what Caesars brings to the table. Access to 65 million reward members, which Caesars for the first time is opening up to local mom and pop restaurants to provide a projected 13.9 million meals annually. For the restaurants that have been struggling to survive in Times Square since the pandemic, Caesars is literally the lifeline that they badly need. Over 200 local restaurants have so far signed up to accept the Caesars Reward Program. I'm only asked one question: how soon? When will they open? We need the help. The TV chefs are fine. The small independent restaurants are not. The mom and pops need the support that only 65 million Caesar Reward members can bring. For that reason, I'm all in on this project.
Passing it off to me.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you. From day one, we were clear about something. This project has to benefit everyone. Times Square, Hell's Kitchen, the west side of all of New York, and that wasn't negotiable. So we did the work. 5 years of real conversations, hundreds of meetings with residents, business owners, community leaders, workers. We listened because we needed to understand what people actually needed, not what they thought they needed. I want to point out that community in particular that we have invested a lot of time in, and I actually have a meeting there this afternoon, is Manhattan Plaza. We understood that felt that they would be the most affected. I mean, I know that everyone, says that they are, but I know that Manhattan Plaza has serious concerns. And so I spent a lot of time in Manhattan Plaza, and what we've come back with after many of those meetings is that we've dedicated $22.5 million to that community over the next 10 years. And we have all committed here, SL Green, Caesars, and Rock Nation, 0.5% of our profit distributions in perpetuity to that community. And the money will be invested at the direction of the trust controlled by the residents to ensure that the community benefits alongside the casino well into the future. Another very important part of, obviously, Times Square is Broadway. And so we've been talking to the Broadway workers. They told us something that really stuck with us, which is the people who create and do the work, all the actors and actresses, and I mean, I heard some of the examples that were really heart-wrenching, is they don't have childcare. They don't, in between the productions, they have, they go months without income, worrying about basic things like paying their rent, healthcare. And so we've put $100 million on the table for the next 10 years, specifically for Broadway workers. That means that childcare, we've partnered with Bright Horizon for childcare, medical and student debt relief, tickets to shows to underserved communities, like the Bronx, a lot of places in the Bronx, establishing a $10 million fund to support the Coalition of Theaters of Color. This is a brand new one that we just partnered with. Agreements to support local theaters such as Sony Hall and Town Hall, youth educational arts program, and we're not going to stop there. So we've also partnered with Actors Equity and Local 802 to host monthly job fairs exclusively for the members. I'm going to pass that off now to Al.
Al is on your screen. Can we just call Al?
He's right.
Can you hear me?
You want me
You can hear me okay? You can hear me okay? Hello. Can y'all hear me okay? Oh, got you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Al Vincent Jr., the executive director, not only the executive director of Actors Equity, who represents 51,000 members across the country, 20,000 of which find their way on Broadway at some point. But I'm also a resident of the community. I live right there in Hell's Kitchen. And let me be clear about something. You might hear people say Broadway is against this, but let's talk.
Can you start over, sir?
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Beginning, sir?
Des, can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear?
I can hear you now. Let me start over.
Right over.
Yes,
We have
please.
to-
All right. Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that.
Okay.
My name is Al Vincent Jr. I'm not only the executive director of Actors Equity Association, which represents about 51,000 members across the country, actors and stage managers, 20,000 which find their way on Broadway at some point. But I'm also a resident of the community. I live right there in Hell's Kitchen. And let me be clear about something. You might hear people say that Broadway is against this, but let's talk about who Broadway really is. Broadway is the actors and stage managers who bring stories to life every night. It's the musicians who create the soundtrack to those stories, the backdrop for those stories. And Broadway is the working people who make the magic happen. And we represent those workers, the heart and soul of Broadway. And what's been impressive to us is that this team has taken the time over the course of the last few years to sit down with us and understand the challenges that our members face every day. like affordable childcare so parents can pursue their careers, healthcare and student debt relief that gives our people breathing room, and stable employment opportunities that bridge the gaps between shows. We have members that come and go to Times Square day and night, and many times late at night. And right now, our members have safety and security concerns in Times Square. There have been several incidents. This proposal will be a massive new investment in funding to make the neighborhood safer. These safety improvements from a new partner are a long-term investment in the health of the theater community. We have a labor peace agreement with this project that will protect the work. And as you know, this would occur in a building that houses a Broadway theater, as was discussed earlier. Our members book auditions on short notice, and getting childcare when they go to and from auditions is a challenge. This team stepped up with $20 million for daycare, and that's a game changer. That will really make a big difference in these folks' lives. They also stepped up with $12.5 million for student loan debt relief and help with medical debt and rental assistance for Broadway workers. And even our members who work on Broadway are constantly looking for new work because these jobs are short-term jobs, right? Folks are, shows don't last forever. Many shows don't last forever, and they need to find jobs in between. And again, this team committed to a monthly job fair just for our community for those who might need a short-term gig between theater jobs. This makes living and working in the theater district sustainable. Our members care about housing costs. This is the only proposal that cannot otherwise be for permanent housing. By using existing office space, it's not taking away land that could be used to solve the city's housing crisis. And finally, the developers sought out a meeting with our health and safety team and asked how they could plan for the construction to be as minimally noisy as possible. They came to us proactively, which was really important, not the other way around. Earlier, Jay said that this team is not competing with Broadway, but adding to it. And we have felt that. We have felt this partnership. The people behind this project have proven to us that this project will be there for us as our needs evolve and that we're in this together for the long haul. And that's why we're here in support, because we know we have a partner who will always be there. When people talk about what Broadway wants, they need to remember who we are. We're the ones singing the songs, telling the stories, bringing the performances to life. We are Broadway, and this project supports the people who make Broadway possible. Thank you.
We are at time. Are you comfortable with listening to the remainder of it? It looks like it's about.
We're beginning to wrap.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, we're very close.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al, for all that you do for Broadway labor. As we mentioned earlier, we have spent over 4 years and 1,000+ meetings engaging with community members in Times Square and Hell's Kitchen to understand the challenges they face every day. From basic infrastructure needs to supporting the workers who make Times Square special, like those Al represents. To help address those needs, we developed the $250 million Community Investment Plan, the largest private commitment to neighborhood improvement in Times Square's history. These aren't feel-good gestures. They're targeted solutions to long-standing community challenge that we learned about through direct engagement with our neighbors. Take healthcare access, for example. We're investing $5 million in Callan Lord, the global leader in LGBTQ+ healthcare, to continue to advance their mission of providing comprehensive, culturally competent care for LGBTQ+ individuals, regardless of their ability to pay. In addition to funding, SL Green will provide the full complement of our real estate services and expertise to Callan Lord to bring the Center for Excellence in Sexual Health to Hell's Kitchen. This new center will be modeled after the highly successful Dean Street Clinic in London, whose service delivery model is globally regarded as the gold standard in compassionate care. Our partnership with Callan Lord will allow the organization to remain on the very cusp of innovation in community health. Then there's basic public infrastructure improvements in Times Square that tourists and locals alike desperately need: public restrooms. We've partnered with Jamestown, the owner of One Times Square, the site where the ball drops on New Year's Eve and the entire world watches Times Square. One Times Square is currently undergoing a $500 million conversion from an office building into a ticketed modern-day welcome center for Times Square. Within their project, they'll have new tourist attractions like a Times Square museum, an observation deck, a wedding chapel, interactive experiences, and an entire floor of bathrooms accessible to only their ticketed customers. Once we learned these bathrooms were coming to Times Square, we knew that we could do our part to help expand bathroom access within Manhattan's densest commercial district. We've made a deal with Jamestown to purchase a certain amount of tickets every year, such that One Times Square's 33 privately funded and privately maintained bathrooms will now become accessible to the public at no charge should Caesars Palace Times Square receive a gaming license. And during a town hall with Manhattan Plaza, the largest affordable housing building on the west side of Manhattan, we heard about the need for improved emergency access. In fact, they asked us to build a new hospital on the west side to improve emergency responsiveness. We never forgot that request. And when we learned about ambucycles and their rapid emergency response success in Tel Aviv, we recognized we could bring this solution to New York for the first time and save lives. These ambucycles allow EMS professionals to reach emergencies and treat on-site in under 3 minutes. For comparison, the current average emergency response time in Midtown is over 12 minutes. And when we're talking about heart attacks, overdoses, allergic reactions, and trauma, saving 10 minutes means saving lives. These are just a few highlights. Our full community benefits package addresses sanitation, streetscape beautification, tree planting, and cultural programming, among others. I'm happy to discuss any specific element during our Q&A. Before we wrap up community benefits, one thing we heard from our friends in labor is the difficulty their members face in accessing affordable housing. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Kohler to share her union's thoughts.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my privilege to be here. As Brett said, I'm Chris Kohler, and I'm here representing the 17,000 members of the Mason Tenders District Council, which includes the 10,000 members of Labor's Local 79, the majority of whom live in the 5 boroughs and build New York City from the ground up. As a representative of hardworking union laborers, we could support every gaming project, but I want to be crystal clear about what may be the most important reason we are in the room to support Caesars Palace Times Square. Our members desperately need affordable housing, and this is the only proposal that doesn't consume vital land that could be used for new homes. This is especially important on limited vacant land in Manhattan. The building already exists as an office building in a commercial district that is not an appropriate location for housing. Every other proposal sits on vacant land far from Times Square that could and should become housing for working families.
Thank you, Chris. But above all, in every community conversation we had, it was clear that safety and security were our neighbors' top priorities. So when we started working on how we could help address this concern, we knew we needed the very best expertise available. That's why we enlisted former NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton to design a comprehensive $81 million public safety initiative. Commissioner Bratton is one of the world's most respected and trusted experts on risk and security issues. Commissioner Bratton led 6 major police agencies, including 2 terms as NYPD Commissioner and the Chief of the LAPD, making him the only person to lead both of America's largest city police forces. He's the architect of modern community policing with a 46-year track record, career focused on reducing crime through neighborhood engagement and strategic reform. Commissioner Bratton pioneered CompStat in New York, a data-driven policing model known as putting cops on the dots that transformed accountability and resource deployment and became the national standard for law enforcement agencies. We want to spend some time walking through the details of our community safety plan now.
Thank you, Brett. Good morning, all. During my time as the NYPD Police Commissioner twice, we reduced crime across the city, including significantly in Times Square, with strategies focused on data-driven deployments and public-private partnership. These tried and tested principles are built into the security plan we developed for Caesars Palace Times Square. Our security plan doesn't just protect our property, it will make the entire Times Square district safer everywhere for everyone, all the time. Our plan features a 24/7 security operation that deploys over 40 professional security personnel daily. That's in addition to the personnel that are already here, including off-duty NYPD supervisors covering 6th to 10th Avenue and from 40th to 53rd Street. We'll have 433 cameras, K9 units, advanced weapons detection, and continuous patrols setting a new benchmark for urban safety. This plan will be funded 365 days a year for the next 10 years. It has been reviewed by our partners at the NYPD and will be incremental to their daily patrols. Here's what I've learned in my decades of policing. When people feel safe, they spend more time in an area, visit more businesses, and return more frequently. Security and commerce work hand in hand. The pedestrian plaza we designed between 1 Vanderbilt and Grand Central has become a destination in and of itself, generating foot traffic for surrounding retailers and restaurants. That's the economic multiplier effect that comprehensive security creates. This is exactly the model of public-private partnership, leveraging state-of-the-art security operations that has made 1 Vanderbilt and the area surrounding Grand Central Terminal consistently outperform its neighborhood in safety. Despite being one of the busiest areas in Midtown, the area around 1 Vanderbilt has averaged fewer than 12 incidents annually. And notably, there have been no reported major felony arrests or incidents on the property in 2025. The plan we designed for Times Square relies on the same 3 principles that we employed at 1 Vanderbilt on a much larger scale: accountability, proactive policing, and neighborhood communication and collaboration. By creating a hyper-local zone for the officers you see on the map, they gain accountability and pride for their location, which they remain in and day out. They have ownership. We're not relying on officers from other locations in New York City to fly in on an in-as-needed basis, only to be gone the next day. It's similar to the 96 police officers I stationed here in 2014 in Times Square. Today, those 96 officers are still here 10 years later. Secondly, if an officer is consistently in the same location, they're better able to anticipate where crime is likely to occur and prevent it before it ahead of time. We don't want to react to crime and arrest people. Instead, we want to be present and prevent crimes from occurring to begin with. And third, officers in the same location every single day will encourage communication with residents and local businesses and create a sense of neighborhood, resulting in communication which will further enable proactive policing. I know that firsthand. I walked the beat my first 2 years in Boston, 1970, so I understand that importance of communicating with residents and businesses. We want to bring that proven success to the whole area around Times Square, not just preventing. Our vision for security is ambitious, but it's achievable, making Times Square the safest commercial district in the world. That's the standard we're committing to: safer and secure everywhere for everyone all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bratton. We've also brought our advisors from AKRF to discuss the research and development they've completed to ensure that our project mitigates congestion and improves traffic flow. Lindo from AKRF will take it from here.
Thank you, Brett. I'm Lindo, Senior Vice President at AKRF, where I've worked for the past 37 years. We're an environmental planning and transportation firm founded and based in New York City, so we know this city. As Brett mentioned, a second major concern we heard is related to congestion. Times Square is synonymous with mass transit, as the subway station opened at the same time that Adolph Ox moved the New York Times to Longacre Square. There are 16 subway lines within a walk from our project site that connect to other parts of New York City. They also connect to the regional transit hubs of Grand Central Terminal, Penn Station, and the Port Authority bus terminal. We have the shuttle, not the shuttle vans that transport customers from mass transit hubs to properties. We have the shuttle, as in the train that runs underground from Grand Central to Times Square, transporting millions of riders every year in a matter of minutes. Today, Times Square above ground sees 64 million pedestrians annually. Times Square below ground with its interconnected subway stations sees 125 million passengers annually. The vast majority, 75% of our visitors, will come to Caesar's Palace, Times Square, via mass transit. Our visitors are already on Metro North, New Jersey Transit, and the Long Island Railroad. these tri-state population of commuters don't see a problem with taking the subway or walking as a barrier. For the national and international visitors, Times Square is home to 19,000 hotel rooms. These guests are a huge part of the 64 million visitors in Times Square. Our tourist guests are already walking around Midtown and are already in Times Square. Walking, as so many people do in Midtown, is a form of transit, and mass transit, like Times Square, is part of the fabric of New York City. Before I describe our multi-pronged congestion mitigation strategy, it's really important to understand that our peak hours do not overlap with peak congestion, which occurs during the morning and late afternoon commuter rushes. Most of our visitors will arrive in the evenings and on the weekends when Times Square is less crowded with commuter volume. For the 25% guests who are driving to Times Square, here's how we plan on minimizing their effects. Our vehicular traffic mitigation plan is formed by actual surveys and real-time data collection, not estimates. As we developed our plan, we listened to the community. Our data shows that some folks will inevitably drive, and some folks will take rideshare. We made the decision early on to eliminate 336 of the existing on-site parking spaces at 1515 Broadway, and instead are going to utilize a dedicated garage located outside of the bow tie, which you could see in the north at 810 7th Avenue. For those who for those who want to use vehicles for hire, we're partnering with rideshare apps to geofence the bow tie during peak demand hours so that those pickups and drop-offs occur at designated locations outside of the bow tie center. For those who simply want to hail a traditional yellow cab, those taxis are already in the Times Square today. In fact, 53% of the traffic in Times Square are taxis dropping off or waiting to pick up fares. At peak demand, our guests who are looking for taxis and vehicles for hire will add minimal incremental congestion. Caesars Palace Times Square will not measurably increase congestion in the bow tie. However, we have heard loud and clear the community's issue. So we have developed a circulation improvement plan that will bring a material reduction in congestion. We studied traffic flows in and out of the bow tie, and through the implementation of specific improvements, and they're holistic, system-wide, they're not piecemeal, that, as shown on this map, involves removing certain turning prohibitions that cause unnecessary circuitous vehicle travel, adding dedicated turning bays to prevent vehicles from blocking travel lanes, and increasing active traffic management. The analysis indicates that our $8 million congestion improvement plan could reduce existing vehicle congestion at the bow tie by over 8.5%. That is beyond what our effects, but actually on existing conditions themselves. But that's not all. We're also going to beautify across cross streets leading to Broadway and 7th Avenue with upgraded streetscapes and plaza treatments, encouraging foot traffic from Hell's Kitchen and the surrounding communities, and implement a streetscape and safety project on 8th Avenue between 40th and 52nd Streets to improve traffic flow, bus stop access, and to maintain pedestrian bicycle safety. And in closing, because we are starting by eliminating an existing Times Square commercial building with 4,500 occupants at peak, the increase in guests traveling to and from Caesars Palace Times Square will generate a net of 550 cars per day. It's an increase in total traffic of less than 1%, which is essentially imperceptible. The circulation improvement plan will more than offset that increase and reduce delays felt by the community by more than 20 seconds per vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
I'm gonna show you to move it. You can put it just in the center. Just leave it in the center.
We're going to wrap up right here. So thank you very much, Lynn. Appreciate it. Commissioner Bratner, thank you. And thanks to Chris, Alan, Jeff for their comments earlier in support of what we're trying to do here. And mostly thank you, committee, for listening today to this extensive and important project. I'm a big fan of the land use review process. I'm maybe one of the few developers that are. I don't know, if Rampy's listening out there, I believe that developers have a responsibility to make sure what they build is great because it could last hundreds of thousands of years. When you're talking about new development, this is not new development, so it's not quite in the same vernacular as what land use review usually reviews, but this is a use that is completely appropriate in the context of the entertainment district within Times Square. The building will be radically improved to become state of the art, and you've heard about all the amazing benefits that the community and businesses and residents stand to gain, as well as the state and New York in general. The voters decided years ago to support 3 gaming licenses downstate and to drive tax revenue and create new entertainment destinations. We now have 3 goals as New Yorkers when trying to figure out where are the best places to land those licenses. You want to put this activity, my opinion, in the most harmonious and compatible place possible in New York State. That is Times Square. To deliver it in a way that benefits as many people as possible and makes the surrounding community better, not worse. And to maximize the revenue that is generated for public transportation and education and everything else that the state will fund with its share of the tax revenues. This project uniquely, possibly solely, checks all those boxes. Gaming belongs in the heart of our most iconic entertainment destination, the only place in New York where the use is truly contextual. We've designed a project that makes Times Square District the resort, not the project, but the bow tie. And Caesar's Palace Times Square is truly, in that regard, one of one. It's a singular location. The project will generate more benefit than is possible anywhere else. And we are a diverse and passionate and dedicated group of New Yorkers who have spent a lifetime working to help this city. And we certainly hope to have the opportunity to do it again here. Jay, you want to close it out, please?
Okay. Again, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, I believe, to support something that's homegrown. We're from these neighborhoods, and as we hear a lot of talk about community, we are the community. We're from these communities. I'm from Brooklyn, from Marcy Projects, and we've heard all the complaints from New Yorkers, obviously, because we listen. Desiree showed up at Manhattan Plaza. We showed up at these places and we sat down. And for us, we've heard the complaints, too commercialized, too touristy. And it's our chance to change the narrative and create something up in all around the world, and how people take pride in the Arc de Triomphe or the Eiffel Tower. That's for us. We have many, but Times Square is one of them. And if we treat Times Square with the love and the attention that it requires, it can become, it could fulfill its promise. I'll just stop there because we're going long. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much.
So that is.
We are concluded with the presentation.
We're going to talk about that mission that we had there.
By the way, that was the
Challenge
shortened, that was the very hyper shortened version. I just want you to know that.
We've done a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's been 4 years working,
That's right.
really going into the communities and really having these conversations. So, obviously we have a lot to discuss.
The time is important. I understand that.
Yes.
There will be an opportunity too in your public comment to do an abbreviated kind of presentation as well. We can talk about that later as well. But I understand a lot of work, a lot of time.
We'll bring out the other book.
Yeah. Come on, more books. I appreciate it though. Thank you. So is there any other items that you'd like to speak about at this time? Like business items? If not, I'd like to go into a Q&A if that works for you. I do know that Matt has some questions. So do you want him just to go first since he's online, or does anybody have have a preference there? Would you like to go first as the chair?
Yeah, sure. I have two.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation, the level of detail, and the work that's obviously gone into the presentation. So just two questions to kick us off. I'm curious about the $250 million community benefits package. Just wondering how that would be governed and how we can ensure that those commitments will be made.
Sure. So it was important to us that there were actual memorandums of understanding that were signed between us and counterparties providing every single one of those services. You'll see in the RFA that we submitted to the state that we attached every single one of those memorandums to the bid and have made awarding us a license contingent on us funding every single one of those programs. So they are physically attached to our bid. They're signed and executed by us. They're signed and executed by a counterparty. For example, in the case of daycare, they're executed by Bright Horizons. In the case of tree planting, they're executed by the Lower East Side Ecology Center, so on and so forth. Every one of those line items you see there is reflected in an MOU attached to the bid.
I'd also like to add to that, with all those contractual arrangements, I'm still a big believer in the old-fashioned way, my word is my bond. I've never overpromised and underdelivered in my career. I think I have an unblemished reputation in that regard. We're going to go beyond what you see. This is the minimum. I commit to you that. This is what we have right now. Okay, there's still the future ahead of us. And, we take great joy in seeing the benefit, radiate out, far beyond. This is what we have now. Some of these things were just added, in the recent months. More will be added as we go forward. Everything will be in the bid. It'll be contractual in whatever agreement and license we have with the state. We have the providers, as Brett said, but you also have my commitment as somebody who's been working in the city for 33 years.
Thank you. And the 81 million for the safety improvements, is that part of the 250
Yes.
million or
Yes.
a separate pot?
It's a line here.
Okay, thank you. And then a question about transportation for buses. I was just curious about how the coordination with some of the out of state and shuttle buses coming into the city will work, especially during some of the surge times in Times Square when shows are coming in and they're letting out.
We're not really looking at shuttle buses per se at this point. I think that is something that is, and if we did, it would be accommodated as part of a drop-off area that is being designed as part of the plan. Our site has the benefit of having 3 frontages, so there are areas in which we would be able to accommodate that. And those are the things that we would be discussing with DOT and have been discussing with the Department of Transportation as part of the review.
Yeah. I think shuttle buses is something you'll see much more in these kind of outskirt locations that are not serviced by mass transit. Most of these have little to no mass transit service, especially relative to Times Square. So, we're looking at, your feet or your transportation, for those that can. There'll obviously be drop off for, impaired and handicapped, but, we're going to encourage as much as possible coercively with the Caesars Rewards benefits to walk that last few blocks. That's not something that's really done in Times Square right now. You go there at night, you see, lines of cars waiting in front of, different destinations and venues where people drop off, pick up, and creates real, intense traffic around certain hours. We're going to be encouraging mass transit, which I think is 75%. So, buses will be, we don't need shuttle buses. We have buses, they are the shuttles. And also pedestrian traffic. We have a garage on site, 500 and
Nearly 500.
500 cars thereabouts. We're decommissioning it. I mean, that was a long conversation with Caesars and they got behind that. They said, we're going to decommission a 500 car park on site, take it off site in a place that we've, identified outside of the bow tie to give some, activity and benefit to another part of the city and have people, walk in or commute in by mass transit. So, shuttle buses, I think, would be mostly reserved for the inaccessible locations that obviously we're not one of.
And then I just had one more question about the safety plan, the map that we saw up there. There were, it looked like they had, Times Square Alliance posts that were, well outside of the bid big boundaries, like the red shows there. So I'm just wondering, are those, is that in coordination with Midtown North precinct, or how does it?
It's already coordination with your town. We
Okay.
have 96 offices assigned to this area in that perimeter city, plus the coordination with the alliance. So all of this is all intended to be collaborative. That's the way it works.
And that is with existing staffing numbers at the precinct? or
Understanding that by the time this thing gets built, the evolution, those staffing figures that basically, as well as some of the technology. The technology is advancing so rapidly. It's incredible that use of drones, et cetera.
Just to add to that, so first of all, none of these positions or posts are officers that will be on duty with the NYPD. This is all incremental to the NYPD, in addition to, so those 96 officers, we're not utilizing any of them while they're on duty. This is supplemental to that. That's one. Two, the area is expanded to the west because we met with Manhattan Plaza. We met with the residents in Hell's Kitchen. This is not the typical boundaries of the Times Square Alliance. It's expanded because the residential community came to us and said, can you do more to help improve our safety in our area, in our neighborhood? So we advanced another avenue to the west to incorporate everything you see going to 10th Avenue, which critically, includes Manhattan Plaza and all of the Hell's Kitchen residential units.
They specifically asked this.
I'm happy to let other community members
I'll
ask
jump in,
questions.
actually, I'll jump in on a traffic related question. Traffic mitigation was part of the presentation. Pedestrian was not, I'm not sure if that's cutting room floor for time or wasn't certainly part of the presentation. As former, is there like a high level 30-second version of, we have how many million people walking mostly to the impacting the sidewalk, certain intersections you're concerned about.
Can you
Back one?
Can you put it back? Yes, actually to the other map. What we show here is basically how we looked at how people are coming in. We have the commuter rail that captures Grand Central's plan, and the authority, most likely that will take the train closer into the circle, the center circle where we say walk only. What we're showing here is that we're anticipating 75% to not be using vehicular or hire taxis or otherwise because we are in such a transit-rich area. Also noting that once you're established in the Times Square as a hotel guest, you are more likely to be traveling and walking or using transit to various destinations. As part of our study, we have been looking at a larger network. As an example, you well know that we are doing an environmental review, which is currently undergoing agency scrutiny and review comments. And in it, we are looking at a traffic network that includes 18 intersections scattered throughout, including the off-site parking garage. We're also looking at about 33 different pedestrian elements, crosswalks, corners. So we are accounting for a lot of that movement and focus particularly around, say, where there's transit stairs, because that's where everybody is. So we are looking at first.
Yeah, there was a little discussion earlier about what hours of the day and days of the week the casino would have the most volume, and whether that would conflict with the, I guess, 9 to 5, working population in and out of the area. I would assume there is a lot of data around the country of actual dates and times of volume in urban-based casinos. Is that kind of data in the presentation?
We haven't provided the exact, we've provided some of the data, but I can tell you, we have 53 properties across the country, across 18 states.
Mm-hmm.
In general, when folks finish work, from a convenience point of view, they'll come visit the casino. So they come after the hours of 5 to 6 o'clock during the midweek days, and on weekends, obviously with no work, that's when you're busier. So your highest volumes are Friday night and Saturday night, without a doubt, and then after work on weekdays.
And what about tourist traffic? People who come to New York for a few days?
Folks that are not working certainly will be visiting the casino throughout the day, for sure.
And do we have any estimate of what that volume might be?
I would tell you, with outside of the peak hours that I discussed after work and on the weekends, that's probably about a quarter to a third of your volume. So the vast majority of the volume, 70% of it, when you think about a typical week, is going to be after work and on the weekends. Sorry about that.
No, you can leave it right there a little bit closer. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
And is the understanding that it'll be a 24/7
Yeah.
casino?
Yeah, it's going to be 24/7.
I think, did Matt have questions
did
online?
Oh, sorry,
Laura,
excuse me,
Just a
sorry.
question, I think, which is sort of building on your question about the buses and also public realm. Have you looked at both the sort of capacity of the transit stations to accommodate the increase in traffic, pedestrian, transit traffic? And also, I think on the question of buses and perhaps even the regional rail that brings people in, have you talked to the operating entities around about their schedules, assuming that they're not necessarily associated with the sort of peak commuter hour trips? The existing schedules may or may not be sort of sufficient to accommodate increases in traffic.
Just to be clear on buses, buses are not coming directly to Times Square. Buses will arrive at the Port Authority, and then those commuters will take either the subway system or they can walk across town to get there. We're not allowing buses to come up in front. Same thing with Uber, Lyft, taxi drop-offs. We're geo-fencing out those abilities to drop off in front of them. We don't want any of those vehicles to arrive in the center of those items like buses.
Yeah, and I think I understood that. I was mostly just thinking if we're assuming a very high transit mode share during off-peak hours, have you sort of confirmed or are you in discussion with the transit operators to ensure that they could actually move people in during those off-peak hours?
As part of the environmental review, we have been coordinating with both New York Transit and the MTA.
Yeah, I'd like Rob Schiffer too, who's been handling the secret class. Another executive vice president, works for SL Green, he's been with me 20 plus years. Rob, can you just, all these questions are being studied as part of like an intensive environmental review process. And I just want you to weigh in on the process and how are these issues being addressed, because these are seminal issues in any development and they're being closely studied.
Yeah, so each and every staircase that will be impacted is being currently, each and every staircase that's being impacted is being studied. If there are improvements that need to be made to those staircases, that will be part of the scope that we execute. All of that is part of the draft EIS, which should be published.
At the beginning, early August, so we are currently still undergoing a lot of the comments and back and forth with the
We'll be
agencies.
publishing the results in a few days.
Okay, but all these items will or should be addressed in that study, yes?
Yes, correct. All the impacts to the local stations by our increased transit ridership
And
we studied
pedestrian.
in the AIS, as well as
And
pedestrian at every single intersection within the entire Times Square.
So every issue will have to be mitigated. I mean, that's the nature of this review process. We will have to spend whatever is necessary or modify our procedures or operation to mitigate that impact. As we've done, in One Vanderbilt is an unbelievable, we put 1.8 million square feet of real estate right on top of Grand Central Station, and we decongested because we made the commutation experience so much cleaner and faster by, in that case, adding one train per hour, Rob. One train per hour of additional capacity through procedural changes and platform widenings, column shrinkages, different types of staircases. And we were able to accommodate more flow. So that review process is ongoing, but suffice to say, whatever whatever impact there is will be mitigated. I would also say, I hope other establishments in Times Square and industries in Times Square pick up on what we're doing on traffic mitigation, because there's no reason that these solutions that have been proposed by AKRF and that we will do at great cost should be limited just to the casino. This is not part of the study, but I would certainly hope these are best practices that Lynn has proposed that are being used around the world right now, and New York City is behind the curve. And there are other businesses and venues in New York City that can, partner with Uber or Lyft or other rideshare services, establish drop-off zones for their customers, and let's get away from vehicular point-to-point kind of, modality. And, to the extent others follow the blueprint we set, because we like to be pioneers, then the numbers will be even improved from what we presented. Do you want to speak to that, Lynn?
Sure.
Sorry.
So what we have proposed here is really a holistic set. And one of the things when we were doing our initial data collection was acknowledging the fact that over time, where there were issues at certain places, there were certain solutions that were proposed. However, often they had unintended consequences downstream or upstream, and it resulted in other issues. So there were little fixes along the way, and it's not as efficient as if you were to take a look at it from a system-wide network, really fully understanding that. What we have proposed here, obviously, is if we're granted that license, we would definitely be having a lot more conversations with not just DOT, but also New York City Transit in terms of the surface. We would be speaking with also the MTA and also coordinating with PD. There's a whole bunch of things that's above ground and below ground that you have to sort of deal together. And so this set is very ambitious, and it certainly goes beyond the more typical toolbox that we're used to kind of promoting, with signal times changes here and striping here. This is a much larger, more ambitious type of system-wide look.
Do you feel like that answered your questions? Okay. I am going to give, did you want?
And Matt, I think Matt.
I just want to, Matt has some
Mhm.
questions, so I'm going to call him now, and then we'll allow him to ask his questions. I'm just going to call him. Matt, if you can mute your computer.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then this one, just put that in the mic for us. Just say okay. Go ahead, Matt. As long as you can hear us, go for it.
Yep. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay. Just want to start with public safety. If you could describe the specific enforcement abilities. There was a variety of different types of officers that would be on various blocks. What specific abilities would they have to prevent and enforce the law? It seems that the most common type is listed as Times Square Alliance Public Safety Officer Foot Patrol. If you could talk about the specific duties of each of those.
Quite understand the question you asked. Can you repeat that briefly, please? This is Bill Bratton. Well, Matt.
What specific abilities would each of the different types of officers listed on this map have to prevent crimes and enforce the law?
Okay, effectively, the 40 officers we're talking about are private security officers who would be supervised by NYPD supervisors who would be hired on an overtime basis to oversee them and assist if, in fact, the services of a full-time law enforcement officer were necessary. But these security officers would have a lot of capabilities, training in particular, to deal with a lot of the quality of life issues, which are of great concern in the Times Square area. But there'd be sufficient police personnel involved in supervising to handle actual crime issues. And then you certainly have the very large NYPD police presence there. Then you have the Alliance personnel, the security personnel, that have been working Times Square for years that will be here. So effectively, you've got a coordinated effort to deal with quality of life concerns, to deal with disturbance of peace concerns, to deal with medical emergencies, and then to deal on occasion when you actually have a crime being committed, it be police personnel, both those hired by SL Green as well as existing NYPD personnel.
Put the phone back. See if you can hear him.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We discussed, most of my transit questions were addressed. I just wanted clarification. There was a garage mentioned at 810 7th Avenue. Is this a new garage or an expanded garage or just using the existing facility?
That's an existing garage that currently services the public. It would be decommissioned to the public and available only to the drive to park customers of Caesar's Palace Times Square.
And it has capacity to handle 100% of our estimated drive to park demand.
Okay. And would that also be taken in, say, like party buses, Sprinter vans coming in from across the river in Jersey?
No, just Caesar's Palace customers on a drive to park basis in a typical vehicle. In a car vehicle.
Okay. I just want to hear more about resident engagement. You talked a bit about Manhattan Plaza and meetings you've had. Certainly, as members of this committee, our vote isn't really about economic benefits or pitting one plan against the other, which might be better. Our vote is simply, does this plan have community support? So can you speak to any specific support you've earned from residents in local residential neighborhoods?
We believe we have support. As I said, we're going back there. I myself am going back there this afternoon with an additional meeting with Manhattan Plaza specifically. But we've had other community board members saying they're backing this plan, as well as the second community board.
Yeah, we've had meetings with the block associations, with district leaders, with everyday residents through neighborhood events that we've hosted, food events that we've hosted. We've met with all of them, and the slide that we show here is really formatted around those requests. None of this stuff here, this group did not sit around and come up with these ideas. These ideas were fed to us real time because we went out into the community and actively engaged with every single one of them. And when you talk about things like the security plan, but sanitation, we're partners with the Doe Fund. There's an MOU executed with the Doe Fund. The Doe Fund will go and clean all of the side streets of Hell's Kitchen in a much more consistent manner to be as clean or better than the Madison Avenue bit. That was the request of some of those residents. We're bringing that to a reality through employing the Doe Fund and bringing them to our neighborhood. The tree planting with the Lower East Side Ecology Center, very important to the residents in this neighborhood. Every tree outside is their park. We've heard that, and protecting the trees that are around Hell's Kitchen, very important.
So I just want to add something to that question. This is the start of the public process. I think there's been a lot of misinformation and misperception out there that we have taken great care to try and get this message out. You've seen it today. Okay, you've seen it firsthand from the team. This is an extraordinary project that should be supported. I believe residents will support this project because it makes so much sense on so many levels. The biggest thing we deal with are, what I would call the naysayers who put misinformation about the quality of the facility or, the impact it might have or, other negative elements that we simply don't think will be the case. The benefits so dominantly outweigh whatever these concerns are. I believe they are concerns of a vocal minority. I think that everyone I presented this project to, and I presented it to hundreds and hundreds of people in hundreds of meetings. And people don't just like it, they say, this is the most obvious place we can think of for this casino in New York State. That's how almost every meeting ends. Problem is I can't have, 50,000 meetings. So we are going to use this process and this presentation you just saw today, hopefully, will make its way to the public. That's the public process I've been through many, many times in Brooklyn and in Manhattan. And we are usually pretty successful at building that support between now and when that vote is taken at the end of September. We expect to have that support, and Des and Brett and others are going to be working hard in those communities, to leverage off of today's presentation and get that support. We think we have a lot now, and we're going to have a lot more in 2.5 months. But this is the process unfolding.
Right. I didn't even know that there was a childcare issue with Broadway workers. It was something new to me when I had those meetings, I think about a year ago. Same with the needs of Manhattan Plaza and what they want to do with the youth groups and the senior program groups. And so we've come up with this, and some of these ideas we can't take credit for. We actually got it from community members.
Matt, I'm sorry, 1 second. Matt, did you have any further questions?
Nope, that is it for now.
Awesome, thank you.
Great, Mr. Scott, I've got a quick question to follow up, but that's all right. First of all, thank you for the thoughtful presentation and for speaking about the engagement, multi-year engagement you've already done with the community, and walking us through the community benefits proposal and stating it's not an endpoint.
Right.
I'm going to ask you just to reverse engineer it a little bit. As you've had these community conversations, you've been building support for this proposal. What were the top, 3 or so concerns community members raised, not just about the neighborhood, right? Which, for example, as you mentioned, childcare,
right?
But that were specific to the proposal, to the citing of this use here, and then can you help us, understand how in the agreement and in the whole plan we're addressing them, and we're going to win over community members.
It's a good question. I think the site-specific issues that were raised are issues that are probably going to be raised for all other candidates as well. Is going to be safety and security and congestion. I think those are the 2 biggest. So whether you consider those site-specific or not, those are things that we've invested, millions of dollars and tens of thousands of hours with Commissioner Bratton today, or with AKRF and traffic consultants, with Uber and with all the other, people. We've had meetings with the NYPD, commissioners to unveil this plan. And you should speak with them, get their thoughts on it, because I think they feel it will be very effective. Our job is not really to go in and police Times Square. I don't want to get off, they're great questions. And I do believe we can singularly make Times Square feel safer and more secure. But the standard is really, don't make it any, less safe. That's for sure. We're going to make it a heck of a lot better, safer, cleaner, decongested, especially if others in the community follow our lead on what we're going to do on transportation. I don't want to, people there's people who talk the game and do the game. You got to do it. You got to get in there and bring the sweat to the table and actually do things. It's not easy to pivot New York City, but we try to. And we've had great success in that. And if others in the Times Square community come on board that effort, then Times Square in 2 to 4 years can be unimaginably great. Unimaginably great. It's great today.
One other one is ambulance response. That was a big one, which was something we added at the end with the slaughter.
Ambulance response. There were certain improvements specific to the community that people want made and we are making. Yeah. Right. You want to elaborate on which ones, or?
The restrooms were a big part of the community too. Streetscape investments, improvements at 8th Avenue, lighting, all those things. I'll give you another big one, which people associate with casinos, is people go inside and they don't come out for 3 days. They take away from the neighborhood around them. That's what everyone thinks is a casino when they imagine it. This is the complete inverse. This is a New York way of doing it, where all we provide is gaming. We cannot possibly accommodate all of the other things that people want in a gaming venue inside our 4 walls. They have to visit the community and frequent those visits. Our neighbors, yes, we have big responsibility to the residents on the west side, but a lot of our neighbors are the businesses in Times Square. This is an entertainment, commercial district. Those businesses really want the uplift that will come with our project. We have other hotels supporting our project. When is the last time hotels said, please put 992 rooms next door? Whenever has that ever? But they know this is going to cause an enormous wealth and spillover effect to their businesses. That's why they're with us.
And I also think when we talk about community, we talk about residents, but we do also talk about small business. And we talk about Broadway actors. You know, Broadway actors may not be residents in your community, the community you represent. They're still important. And the people who are going to work there. And the small businesses in your community that are impaired right now. Okay, there's been a dramatic sea change in the retail landscape in Times Square, and no one knows that better than SL Green, because we've invested more in retail properties in SL Green than anybody in the city or in this community. You know, signage, new developments at 1551 Broadway, 1552 Broadway, where we sit today. This building, 5060. Okay, we won an award. I think it's the Miller.
The I. Miller Building.
The I. Miller Building
Preservation
of the Year award for the work we did here, where we're sitting. You know, and I've seen the change. There used to be no vacant storefronts, single-digit vacant storefronts. There were at its peak 40. I think there still is over 40 vacant storefronts, and the quality of the retailer has, you know, devolved back to where it was a long time ago. So we do need to make, you know, I love this city and I love Times Square, and nobody invests more in Times Square than we do. Fact. But I'll be the first to say we could do a lot better here. Free public bathrooms, med service to save lives, benefits for Broadway workers, lifelines to small businesses like Jeff's. I mean, that's got to count too. That should count. Not, I don't, the way we've approached this is it's got to be good for the residents and these other stakeholders. I don't know if, that's the view of the committee, that only a vocal minority of Hell's Kitchen residents makes this decision. I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, when we went out to talk to them, I'll tell you, they couldn't believe that they didn't even know casinos were happening. At some of them didn't know they were happening, and no one had spoken to them. And in fact, they were so happy that we came out, and then they had all these questions for us. And I actually felt like we're not the mayor of the city. We can't solve every problem, but please, just give us your thoughts. I mean, they had not been spoken to by anyone. And I think that they think that a lot of deals happen, big names come into town, they build all these buildings or they do all this business and they never include it. And so that's why we took the approach of we want to speak to them and we want to hear from them. And even as we stood there, we're not your local politicians, but we want to hear what it is exactly. And that's why, for example, we added the extra block with the security. And we're willing to do anything that has to be done for the community because we love New York. I love New York. And we want to do what's right by us.
Desiree, thank you so much. We are over on time. So just real quick, does anybody have any more questions? Just remember there is an opportunity to ask more questions after today, and then also perhaps in a public comment. So any other questions from the board members? No? All right. So with that being said, I would like to get a motion to adjourn today's meeting. So a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Wonderful. Second?
Second.
All right. So we are officially adjourned. So thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.